Happy Monday, everybody. So we are now at the very end of this unit. We're taking a look at the very end of chapter 4 today, and we're going to look at, we're still continuing with transformational grammar in chapter 4. We looked on Friday at the different types of sentences that we have. So today we're going to take a look at what we call cleft sentences. And cleft, C-L-E-F-T, cleft as it becomes from the verb to cleave, which means to split apart. And so we're going to take a look at how we can take a sentence and split it apart using three different structures. One structure we're going to diagram. The other two we're just going to practice on how to write those types of sentences. So the first structure we have today, if you're following along with your notes, is what we call a there transformation. So here's how it works. In English, we can shove the word there into a sentence and we can kind of change the focus of the sentence. So if I take these two sentences here, which say, there's a fly in my soup, or there's an error message on the computer screen. Well, what's happening is the real sentence has nothing to do with the word there. There has neither singularity or plurality to it. So that's why sometimes you can see a sentence which says there is or there are, things like that, because the word there really doesn't change anything about the sentence at all. The word there has been sort of inserted into the sentence to cleave or to split the sentence apart. What the real sentence is saying is a fly is in my soup, or an error message is on the computer screen. But what I've done is I've inserted the word there, and then I've had to move the verb around in order for it to actually make a sentence. In this case, there's a fly in my soup, or there's an error message on the computer screen. And the reason they do that, and the reason we do this in the English language, is the fact of, like, in the original sentence, a fly is in my soup, the focus is on the word soup. Remember, the focus is always at the end of the sentence, or an error message is on the computer screen. The focus here is on the computer screen. But when you do a there transformation, and the author does a pretty good job of showing you sort of like the roller coaster of inflection, what happens in your voice is you can almost hear yourself hitting the subject higher, more than the rest of the sentence. There's a fly in my soup. You can hear my voice kind of go up. There's a fly in my soup. Or there's an error message on the computer screen. And what happens is then by using a there transformation, you've actually forced the reader to hit the subject harder than the back half of the sentence. So all it is a rhetorical device. This is the advanced grammar and rhetoric side of our class. And so we're focusing on the rhetoric of how you get the reader to focus on something of more importance. So sometimes you get confused because the word there is both what we call an expletive, meaning it's not really part of the sentence, and sometimes it's actually an adverb. And so the way of telling the difference between those two options that we have is we would say there's an unstressed and there's a stressed there. Unstressed would be like a there transformation. There's a piece of a jigsaw puzzle missing. Well, you're not really focusing on the word there, and it's kind of just sort of not really hard hit. But if I said, there it is on the floor, you can almost hear me hitting it much harder. There it is on the floor. And that's the reason we would treat that there, that second one, as an adverb, where that first there is an expletive. He's not really that important to the sentence. For the second one, it's telling us a location. And so the word there has some various uses in English language, but what we're trying to show here is there are different types. There's an adverb there, but we're going to focus on the expletive there and how we create this there transformation. So here's a side note that I need you to make sure you write down, that with the there transformation, they do sometimes break the subject-verb agreement rule. So if I said there was some great blocking and some fine running and passing in Friday's game, well, the thing is, we use this word was as a verb, which doesn't make a lot of sense, because if you take the word there out and you transform the sentence back into its regular form, what you're really saying is some great blocking and some fine running and passing was in Friday's game. And if you do your math, that's a plural subject. That should be three different subjects. There's blocking, running, and passing. And 1 + 1 + 1 = 3, which is plural. So why wouldn't the verb be were? And I know it sounds weird, but according to our author and according to English grammar, a there transformation will sometimes break its subject-verb agreement rule. And so sometimes you'll see it using the word there was as opposed to there were, even though in this case, the subject seems to be plural. I'm not sure why they do that. It's just simply how it is sometimes. And a little side note for yourself that you might want to write down. Another weird thing about the there transformation is typically the there transformation is used with a to be verb. There is or there's, like THERE''S. But sometimes you might have a verb which is not a to be verb. That happens. If I said, there came from the class a groan at the sight of the quiz. Well, once again, if I cut that word there out of the sentence, what I'm really saying is a groan at the sight of the quiz came from the class. And this time I use the verb came as opposed to a be verb. Once again, it's still a there transformation. So what I want to do is I want to take a look at the two examples I have on your worksheet, because I think when we diagram them, we'll visually be able to see how the there transformation is actually formed. Once we kick the word there out of the sentence, we can transform the sentence back into its regular declarative form. So I'm going to change screens here and take on this worksheet for you. All right, so here we go. So we have this, there's a rumor going around the school about my being expelled for my hacking into the school's computers. I like this one because it's going to practice our work on gerunds. So I want you to notice, I'm going to take my color up here and change it over to orange. So I want you to realize that the word there is going to be cut out of the sentence, which leaves me with this apostrophe S. This apostrophe S is like saying the word is. So really what I'm saying is a rumor is going around the school. All right, so there's our main sentence. A rumor is going around the school. Everything else are a bunch of prep phrases. So I'm going to build this close to the top. So when I make my sentence, I'm going to do everything except for that word there, because the word there is not really part of my sentence at all. I'm going to kind of do them close to the top left corner, because I know a lot of this is going to start building its way down, and I hope I give myself enough room. So my subject is rumor, and it's a rumor. And then it's is going, but I'm going to draw it as it literally is. This might be a little weird to you, but I'm going to draw it as it literally is. So I don't really have the verb is. I have an S sound. So I'm going to do an apostrophe S. It's my way of showing me that it's is. And then here's my other part of that verb, which is going. Remember, this is not a gerund, because this is just a to be verb going into an ing. If that ing was all by himself, then he would be a gerund, as we're going to see a little later with being expelled and hacking. This time that is actually making that a full verb. So a rumor is going, and you're going to say, well, where's it going? Well, it's going around the school. So let's build that under here. So here's around school, the school. So see if I can squeeze this in here. Around school, the school. Here's another prep phrase. About, and then here's a weird noun. So I don't just simply have a gerund. This is a little more advanced for us, but I have this gerund being, but I have expelled with it. And what we're going to find is what this is called. This is called a passive gerund, because a gerund is an ing verb, and most of the time they're just simply a regular verb which has been made into an ing. This is a passive voice gerund, so this is called a passive gerund, being expelled. It's just extra. I would never give this to you on a quiz. I just happen to throw this onto this sentence. So think about where it is. It's right next to the word school, but it's not a school about being expelled. That doesn't make any sense at all. So let's get rid of that. That could be confusing. So let's try a different color. Maybe that might make it easier. That's pretty. So in this case, it's not this school about being expelled, but I would say it's a rumor about being expelled. Yikes, I'm going to have to squeeze this guy over here. So I'm going to go back to my main color, black. I'm going to come down with my prep. I might extend this. Maybe that'll work out better for me. All right, let's do that. Let's come down with the word about. Right here. It's a rumor. What kind of rumor? It's a rumor about. And now I'm looking for my noun, but I don't have a regular noun. I have a gerund. So I'm going to make a step here. And once again, this is more advanced, but I want you to know that being expelled is all one big gerund. Right? If you're ever at a boring dinner party and you want to impress people, you can talk about your knowledge of a passive gerund. All right? And that will be like, wow, to a lot of people. I don't know. So there we go, being expelled. Here's critical information for us is this word my. I'm going to change my color so we can really highlight it here. Remember that word my. Anytime we're focusing on a gerund, we have to think about the subject of the sentence. It's a very critical point for this unit. Remember, rumor can be going. So the rumor is going, but a rumor isn't being expelled. I'm the one who's being expelled. So in order for this gerund not to dangle, because right now you're like, well, who's being expelled? It doesn't say. I have to give it its own subject. It's the only way of making this sentence grammatically correct. So I'm going to take that word my and I'm going to build it here. And we know that reason. We know it has to go underneath the noun part of our gerund because this is the noun part and this is the determiner for the noun part of that gerund. So it has to be my being expelled. It's the only way for this sentence to be correct. Then to continue on, we have another prep phrase, for my hacking. Well, I'm being expelled for my hacking. So it tells me why. And I think that fits really well underneath the verb part because it tells me why I'm being expelled. So I'm going to come down with for, Kind of a wavy line there. And once again, here's my gerund because I'm hacking. I can already tell that I'm going to run out of room. So we'll have to be creative. So there's hacking. And then once again, the rumor controls the sub of the sentence. I'll change my color so maybe you can see it better. So remember, he is the king or the queen of the sentence. And so he is the one who controls all the verbs. The rumor is going, sure, but the rumor isn't being expelled. So we added the word my. Here's another gerund. The rumor isn't hacking. I was the one who's hacking. So I have to include that word my all over again with that gerund underneath the noun part. So here's the word my right here. It's my hacking. And then I have into the school's computers. Well, I'm hacking where into the school's computers. So once again, this is a prepositional phrase which should connect back to that gerund, but probably the verb part of the gerund. I have run out of room. So I'm going to build it here and then draw a cheesy arrow all the way over there. So here's into. Maybe you did better with your space than I did. Here's computers. And then this is where it gets a little wonky. I'm okay with saying the computers, schools, computers, but some people say, could you put the off of schools? And I'm like, yeah, that seems sophisticated and correct as well. So I'm still going to go this way with school, the computers, schools, computers. But if you want to put the off of schools, that's fine. And then I'll change my color just so that we can all understand that I have made a mistake by not giving myself enough room, that this guy is going to try to slide here. All right. So a couple of major takeaways so far is we have to have this word my underneath the noun part of our gerund. And I also like these prep phrases underneath the verb part of the gerund because you're being expelled why for hacking, or you're hacking where. So these ones answer where and why. They're adverb questions. These are your determiners. So they have to go underneath your noun. So this is all sort of a nice practice of gerunds from last week. The one thing we have not taken care of yet is that word there, because the word there has to go somewhere in the sentence. I mean, he's still there, so we have to put him somewhere. So in a there transformation, and if you're in my classroom right now, you'll see the back wall. We have a sentence back there as an example. And if you're in the book, you can see it in the book as well. What happens is the word there floats, but he floats without any connection at all. That's kind of weird. Let me get rid of this crown because I think he's going to be in my way. So let's get rid of this crown. All right, so back to where I am. So what happens is the word there floats. Technically, he's supposed to float in the upper left-hand corner. So he just kind of sits up here on his little hoverboard. And there's no dotted line or anything like that. He just kind of sits there. Now, if you don't have room and you want to put him over here, that's okay. I don't care where you put him. But he has to kind of float somewhere. But once again, he's not connected. So we kick the word there out of the sentence and we transform the sentence back to its regular form. And that's why we call it transformational grammar. We've transformed the sentence. Now we're transforming it back into its regular form. All right, so that's the first sentence. I'm going to pause our video and then we'll start the second sentence.